There is a strange kind of suffering that looks like intelligence. You notice everything. Every awkward pause in a conversation, every tiny change in someone's tone, every moment where you might have said the wrong thing. And hours later, your mind is still replaying it. You analyze your thoughts, then you analyze the fact that you analyzed them. It feels like awareness, like depth, like emotional intelligence. But slowly, it begins to feel like a trap, because the more you observe yourself, the harder it becomes to simply live. And what most people never realize is this: too much self-awareness can quietly turn the mind against itself. Imagine two versions of you. One is living, the other is watching. One is speaking in the conversation, the other is standing in the corner of your mind, evaluating every word. Was that stupid? Did they think that was weird? Why did I say it like that? And suddenly, the moment is gone. Instead of experiencing life, you're auditing it. Psychologists call this excessive self-monitoring. It's a cognitive pattern where the brain constantly evaluates how you appear to others. A small amount of this is healthy. It helps us adapt socially. But when it becomes constant, it creates a strange psychological split. You are no longer just being yourself. You are performing yourself. And performance creates pressure. This is why highly introspective people often report something paradoxical. They understand themselves deeply, but feel less free being themselves. The mind becomes a mirror facing another mirror. Reflection, inside reflection, inside reflection, until there is no end. And eventually, you get stuck inside the reflections. Here's the important part. This doesn't mean something is wrong with you. In fact, the trait behind this pattern is often linked with intelligence, emotional sensitivity, and introspection. Research in personality psychology connects high self-awareness with traits like openness to experience and high metacognition. Metacognition simply means thinking about your own thinking. Your brain has a very active internal observer. That observer helps you reflect, learn, and grow. But when it becomes overactive, the observer starts interfering with the experience itself. Like a scientist who jumps into the experiment every few seconds, you stop being the participant. You become the critic. And critics don't relax. They evaluate constantly. To understand why this happens, we need to look at how the brain processes the self. Inside the brain is a network called the default mode network. This system becomes active whenever you are not focused on an external task. It is the network responsible for self-reflection, autobiographical memory, imagining the future, and thinking about what others think of you. In other words, it creates your internal story. But when the default mode network becomes too active, it creates a loop. Instead of helping you reflect occasionally, it keeps pulling attention back toward the self. Neuroscientists sometimes describe this as self-referential processing overload. Everything becomes about you, not in a narcissistic way, but in an evaluative way. Every event becomes data about your identity. Did that mean I'm awkward? Does this prove I'm bad at social situations? Why do I always do this? Your brain starts treating life like a continuous psychological case study. And here is the hidden cost. Attention is limited.
When too much attention is directed inward, there is not enough left to engage with the world, which is why excessive self-awareness often leads to social anxiety, overthinking, decision paralysis, and emotional exhaustion. You are running a full-time internal analysis, all day, every day. The solution is not to eliminate self-awareness. That would remove one of your greatest strengths. Instead, you need to rebalance the system. Here are 4 psychological shifts that help restore that balance. Your brain has a spotlight of attention. Right now, it's pointed inward. The first step is gently turning it outward. Instead of thinking, "How am I coming across?" what is actually happening around me? Notice the room, the tone of the conversation, the environment. This small shift reduces activity in the default mode network and increases activity in the task positive network, which is responsible for engagement and action. In simple terms, attention on the world reduces obsession with the self. Highly self-aware people often assume that every thought deserves analysis, but cognitive psychology shows something different. The brain produces thousands of spontaneous thoughts every day. Most of them are noise. When you analyze every thought, you accidentally give it importance. Instead, try this mental model. Thoughts are weather patterns. Some pass quickly, some linger, but none of them are the sky. You are the sky. The thought is just the cloud. When you stop interrogating every thought, mental space begins to return. Overthinking often freezes action. You analyze every possible outcome before moving. But behavioral psychology shows that action often corrects thinking, not the other way around. For example, you might analyze whether you should speak in a meeting, but the moment you speak, your brain receives new feedback. Reality replaces speculation. This is why therapists often use behavioral activation. Action interrupts rumination. Movement breaks mental loops. So instead of asking, "What is the perfect response?" ask, "What is the next simple action?" Then take it. Your mind constantly narrates your life. Sometimes this narration is helpful, but sometimes it becomes relentless commentary. Imagine watching a movie where a voice explains every scene. Eventually, you would want silence. Your mind needs that silence too. Simple practices like walking, drawing, exercise, or slow breathing temporarily quiet the narrative network of the brain, not by force, but by redirecting attention into sensory experience, feeling, movement, presence. In those moments, you stop watching yourself live, you just live. All of this leads to a simple mental model. Think of the mind as having 2 modes, the observer mode and the participant mode. Observer mode analyzes, reflects, evaluates. Participant mode experiences, acts, and engages. Both are necessary, but modern life and introspective personalities often overtrain observer mode. It becomes the default. You end up watching your own life instead of inhabiting it. The goal is not to remove the observer. The observer is wise. But wisdom comes from stepping in and out of observation. Reflect, then return to experience.
Think, then act. Observe, then participate. A healthy mind moves between both states, like breathing, in, out, reflection, experience. If you have been trapped in excessive self-awareness, there is a strange comfort in knowing this. Your mind was never trying to hurt you. It was trying to understand you. But understanding is not the same as living. Life was never meant to be solved like a puzzle. It was meant to be entered. Messy conversations, imperfect moments, unanalyzed laughter. And when you allow yourself to step out of constant observation, something surprising happens. You don't lose depth, you gain freedom. Because the deepest form of self-knowledge is not found in endless analysis. It is found in experience. And sometimes, the healthiest thing your mind can do is look away from itself and return to the world.